Now, legislators in the East Legislative Assembly have granted leave to the Tanzanian Member of Parliament Shairos Sandrine Banji to draft a bill that is intended to coming up with a LWA prohibiting discrimination against people living with albinism.
With albinism in the East African community states face profound social stigma and isolation due to the negative myths that surround the condition.
Albinos, they're human beings like you and me. But today, in our society, people still believe that when you kill an albino or when you get their body parts, you can be rich, you can get a good political position, or you can have a good fortune.
Shairos Banji, a Tanzanian representative to the East African Legislative Assembly, who has been granted leave, says once the bill is enacted into law, it will help prohibit the discrimination of people suffering from albinism and ensure affirmative action in their fare.
There is also a big problem of stigma. There is a problem of discrimination. That is why I saw it that it is very important to bring this bill to EALA and make it into a law. So it is high time that we have this bill in EALA to make sure that we come up with tough measures, tough punishment.
Shairos Banji also believes the bill will help to develop and promote participation of people with albinism in all aspects of life as equal citizens of the East African Community region.
They deserve to get good education like all of us. They deserve leadership positions. I'm not sure about in Uganda and Burundi, but if you look across the region, you find that there are very few MPs who are people with albinism. Even when you look at the East African Legislative Assembly, you will not find even one person with albinism.
To some members of parliament, the bill will also stipulate sanctions against those who indulge in suffocating the rights of people with albinism. To them, any person who discriminates against albinos shall be liable upon conviction to 5 years imprisonment.
Is that in order to protect them in a stronger manner, we shall have aggravated forms of crimes, such that, for example, if it's supposed to be 5 years for any other ordinary crime, when it's committed against an albino, then it could be increased to 8 years. So we are still looking at this so that the sentences and the fines can be, and the penalties can be prohibitive as well as protective.
In the Tuesday sitting that was chaired by Speaker Dan Kidega, the legislators also believe that once the bill is passed into law, the rate at which people suffering from albinism are targeted will reduce in all the countries that make up the East African community. Sabit Joseph, Sam Ibana Mugabe, NBS Live.
All right, that's a report from our partner station in Uganda. And still there, the East African Legislative Assembly sittings happened this week in Uganda. And our reporter from that end, Solomon Serwanja, had a sit-down with the East African Legislative Assembly Speaker Daniel Kidega. Let's take a look at that conversation by the two.
Well, a very good evening to you, Akisa. It's been a whole 2 weeks of the East African Legislative Assembly members here in Uganda for the 4th meeting of the 5th session of the 3rd Assembly. A lot of issues have been discussed. We want to know exactly what shaped that discussion and how is the region moving on. This evening we're joined by the Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly, Honorable Dan Kidega, on Bottomline East Africa, to just throw more light, especially this is actually his last term in office. Many thanks for joining us, Honorable. It's such a pleasure to have you this evening. Let's start with 2 weeks during the Kampala session. What were the highlights? What was discussed?
Good evening, viewers, and welcome to EALA. And thank you, KTN, for hosting us. The most important thing is that we have had 2 good weeks in Kampala, very fruitful meeting, the 4th meeting of the 5th session of the 3rd Assembly, and the last sitting in the city of Kampala, Uganda. We had 2 good meetings. The highlights are, on Tuesday we had a very great moment with His Excellency President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, who came to open the assembly meeting and addressed the parliament and gave us a very deep insights on the regional integration, the Pan-African dream, a big kind of ideological drill to the members. That was very great. Then after that, we went on with our business where we passed about 3 major motions granting leave to members of parliament to introduce private members' bills. One very important one is by Honorable Shairos from Tanzania, United Republic of Tanzania, was granted leave by the House to move a private member's bill seeking for protection of albinism. In our community of East Africa, we have these citizens who have this albinism, and there are certain barbaric behaviors by some citizens in our community who are butchering these human beings, killing them, that you do that for good luck, and this barbaric action need to be outlawed. So we passed that resolution. The second resolution we passed is that to grant leave to Honorable Dr. Odette from the Republic of Rwanda to introduce also a private member's bill on the issue of sexual reproductive health of our citizens. That was also done. The third leave that we granted was to Honorable Chris Opoka to introduce a private member bills to regulate the extractive industry, specifically the mining sector. Those were the resolutions. Then we passed 2 major reports of the Assembly, which were introduced by the Committee on Legal Rules and Privileges on the issue of life insurance and life cover. We had a bit of a hiccup at Arusha in choosing which company should give cover to their members and the staff of the East African community, and it was believed that there was an underhand method of granting that tender to some company. An investigation was commissioned by me, and this investigation was done, and the report was tabled, and corrections were made, and the tender was granted to Britain to give us life coverage in the health. The second report was still related to administrative issues at Arusha in relations to procurement generally. Okay, there were allegations that there are certain procurement processes which are not going on well. And we had to investigate, and the report was given, and indeed we dealt with it, and we found out that there were flaws in some of the processes, and we disposed of. And that was specifically by the Committee on Regional Affairs and Conflict Resolution.
Isn't that terrible for the community to have such issues at this point?
No, it is not. It's not unique. You know, Parliament has a function of oversight. Just like you see in partner states, they are raising issues of corruptions, like in Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania. Parliament must be on its toe to check the executive, how resources, how procedurally they are behaving. And that's what we are doing. And kudos to EALA. They have kept the Secretary General and the Secretariat on check in terms of performance of their duty. So that was excellent.
I think it was excellent deliberations here in Kampala, but also I think we need to discuss the key challenge of financing the community. It has been a very big bottleneck in the performance of EALA. How are you managing it?
Yeah, but maybe before I go to the finances, just quickly to mention that we also passed 2 bills. Yes. One bill on the prohibition of the female genital mutilation. There is some bad engineering going on our little girls in the region, where we cut the female organ of girls in the name of cultural practice. We also passed a law outlawing that practice. The second law we passed was on the administration of the East African Court of Justice. Now, straight to the issues, the challenges of financing. You see, the whole construct of the community is such that we budget. Yeah. After we have budgeted, we divide the budget, the quantum, by the number of partner states. The practice has been by 5, equally, irrespective of the size of the economy. And this has posed a bit of challenges. The remittances, the contribution by the partner states to the integration process has been very difficult. In fact, most partner states have not met their deadlines of when they're supposed to bring money to the community. In fact, the best performing country is actually Uganda. Okay. Kudos to President Museveni and his government that has been on top of their game in terms of attending to their commitments. So it is very serious. It is critical. Last financial year, the budget performed at only 65%, which is a true reflection of our integration speed or level. So,
And also the commitment, I think.
and the commitment. One thing which I should put very clear, I have interacted with all the presidents, the members of the summit. The political commitment is total. But I think translating that political commitment to actual remittances of finances or meeting deadlines or timelines of activities has been a challenge. So we're trying to task ourselves to find out which is the best way to overcome these challenges. On the financial front, we are talking of a more sustainable financing mechanism. The Council of Ministers is seized by this directive from the summit that they should come up with a sunset recommendation to the summit on how best we can get a more sustainable financing mechanism. We are mirroring more or less what the African Union has adopted of giving a charge on the imports by partner state governments to fund this. So if we realize that, then I think we shall be able to deal with that challenge. But it is real.
It is real, it is, and I'm sure it really... And that's the right word, threatening the community itself. Let's also talk about a threatening issue. How far have we gone with the political federation? It is something that I think, however difficult it is to talk about, but we need to talk about it.
There is no better way to have been put to the assembly than the way President Museveni did on Tuesday last week. He told us the stages of the custom union, the common market, and the monetary union. Those are prosperity quests to develop our economies. But there is another quest, the quest to make ourselves secure. Having made money becomes prosperous, and having resources. How secure are our lives, our property, our resources like land and otherwise? He actually posed a very strong question to us that if the Chinese people decided to send 200 million people to come and live in East Africa, how shall we stop it? Do we have capacity? So that is the question of securing the region. And that is what we talk, that's when we talk about the political federation. We must federate politically to secure our land, our people, and our property. We must have a common defense mechanism. We must have a common foreign policy mechanism to engage with the rest of the world, to make sure we galvanize strength. And that can only happen through a political federation.
Which is taking really a snail's
Yes.
speed.
I am a bit disturbed as the speaker of the community because the discussion, the political conversation at one point was on the table, but it got they shelved it. Now, the Assembly has passed the resolution through a motion moved by Honorable Chris Opoka to urge the summit and other organs of the community that this debate must be reintroduced. And as an assembly, we have sent a strong recommendation to the Council of Ministers that the political federation debate must be brought back on the table. And we must frankly talk about it because it's about our security. Other people interpret it to mean quest for political powers by some individuals. That is myopia. We must unite. You saw what has happened in West Africa. Our ECOWAS has sorted out a problem which was coming up. So we need to develop such capacity, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But, you know, we still have coalition of the willing. We still have all those issues to sort.
Coalition of the willing is just a variable geometry principle of the integration process. We don't have anything called coalition of the willing. Only what we need to do, honestly speaking, is that our leaders must frankly converse. Our leaders must frankly talk about issues that we must deal with. There are these unfounded suspicions that still exist among partner states and fears. And these fears and suspicion can only be dealt with if we openly talk about them. I throw it back to my senior leaders in the region. You remember the recent decision by the Law School of Kenya saying East African students should not go to law school. That is not integration. President Uhuru said we are not just a neighboring countries or a gathering of nations. We are a community.
Absolutely.
That must live together, work together, and prosper together.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dan Kidega. It's a pleasure. Well, it's been the Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly, Honorable Dan Kidega, whose tenure ends in June, speaking to us a little bit more about the community and how they've been transacting business. The next session will be in Kigali, Rwanda, where the members of parliament will be deliberating on, among others, some bills that have been on the table for quite a while. My name is Solomon Terwanja, and now hand you back over to Akisa for more of the top stories tonight.